Yo, what's up, family? Shalom. Hope you guys are having a good morning so far. I wanted to talk to you guys on why does he who finds a wife obtain favor from the Lord in Proverbs 18:22. I was on the way to work this morning and I heard Dr. David Jeremiah speaking on Abigail and David and how they came about being together and how, Abigail was a virtuous woman of God. She was full of grace, obedient to the Lord, and she loved the Lord. She was faithful. And Nabal, her husband, was the total opposite. He was not a man of God. And she knew this, but she was still faithful to him because of the Lord. Now, she tried to intercede with David. We know this, King David, about killing Nabal and basically saying, don't do it. It's not worth it. Let God basically handle it in a nutshell is what she was saying. And she was right, family, because Nabal ended up dying of a stroke because of what his wife did. He was supposed to do and he did not. And the Lord took vengeance upon that man's life. See, this could go for man or woman on how we treat our husbands and our wives, family. Are you obtaining favor for the Lord or are you obtaining vengeance? Is vengeance going to come upon your life? We can intercede for our husbands and our wives. But we also understood that Abigail ended up being David's wife because of the virtuous woman she was. She was a Proverbs 31 woman. And David could recognize that very clearly. She had favor of the Lord, and because of him marrying her, he knew he was going to obtain favor. But I want to talk about Proverbs 18:22. I just thought, since I was doing this study this morning, it was kind of funny how God brings things together and confirms a message for you. And Abigail and David, that is, if you haven't ever actually took the time to read the story of Abigail and David and what had to take place in order for them to be together, take the time to read that. It's pretty interesting. So the book of Proverbs is featured in the Bible's wisdom literature. It contains practical guidelines, basically, family, moral principles for developing a sound character and making wise and beneficial decisions for our lives. Various topics are explored within Proverbs, as we know, including marriage and family. And one such tenet for wise men suggests that he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. So let's talk about that, family. It is important to understand that the Proverbs are not meant as divine promises or guarantees. These are basically general principles. Both positive and negative statements appear in Proverbs about wives. And, one example is Proverbs 19:13 remarks that a quarrelsome wife is like a constant dripping. So, and also Proverbs 18:22 implies that he who finds a good wife obtains favor from the Lord. But Proverbs 12:4 also confirms that. A wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a disgraceful wife is like decay in his bones or cancer in his bones. In Hebrew, the wording of Proverbs 18:22 is strikingly similar to that of Proverbs 8:35. For those that find me find life and receive favor from the Lord. Me in this verse basically refers to wisdom, suggesting that after wisdom itself, the finest of God's blessing is an excellent wife. Proverbs 31:10 makes a parallel analogy. A wife of noble character who can find it. She is worth far more than rubies in Proverbs 8:11. So basically, he who finds a wife obtains favor from the Lord. But this interference is that not just any or every wife will bring favor from Yahweh. Okay, so be aware of that. Not everybody is of God and has favor of God and is of God, basically. Ecclesiastes, another biblical book of wisdom, makes this point abundantly clear, family. I find more bitter than death the woman who is a snare, whose heart is a trap, and whose hands are chains. The man who pleases God will escape her, but the sinner she will ensnare. So there you have it. Ecclesiastes 7:26. Proverbs 14:1 warns that the wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands the foolish one tears it down. A prudent, God-fearing wife is a treasure, and an excellent thing for a man to find, family. Proverbs 31:10-31 elaborates on the blessing of a wife of a noble character. This passage is a poem, basically of the value of a virtuous wife. The poem's opening question emphasizes the rarity of a virtuous woman and implies that if a man finds such a wife for himself, he will have attained great favor from the Lord, for she is worth far more than rubies, verse 10. So the woman described in Proverbs 31 is trustworthy, capable, intelligent, diligent, generous, kind, bringing her husband goodness and blessings her whole life long. And that's verses 11-15. A virtuous wife bringing favor from the Lord is both wise and humble, strong and gentle, and she knows how to deal with business. She's got a good way of thinking. She works hard. The strength of her character enhances her family's dignity. It adds esteem to her husband's reputation. So, and of course, the whole household, really, her children as well. Proverbs 31:16-28, family, take the time to read that. For these reasons, her children called her blessed, and her husband praises her, saying, there are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all, in verse 29. Above all else, this is a woman who loves and fears the Lord, okay? We know that a woman that fears the Lord shall be praised. A man who finds a wife of such extraordinary worth most certainly obtains favor from the Lord, family. It's in the Word of God. But she has to be a woman of God. She has to be a virtuous woman. She can't be a woman of this world. If she's a woman of this world, all she's going to do is cause you pain and suffering, bring nothing but trouble to your life. But we can all intercede for our husbands and our wives, family. You might not be married to a godly woman. You may not be married to a godly man, but that doesn't mean you can't intercede for them, that you can't help to bring their soul to God. Plant your seeds. Just because you believe and you walk for Christ doesn't necessarily mean that your husband or your wife is going to do that. But them watching you do it, that's going to affect them, family. Because they're going to wonder, what is this? Why is my wife or my husband acting this way over this God? They're going to start to be curious about your change and curious about your walk with Christ. So be encouraged by that, family. And to any man that has a wife, that is a godly wife, that is a blessing from the Lord, from the Most High Yahweh. Be grateful that you have such a woman in your life. And same thing goes for a wife. If you have a husband, a man of God, a man after God's own heart, be blessed for that. Especially in this generation we live in. We see what this generation is trying to do to marriage. Pray over your marriage, protect your marriage, and fear the Lord. You can have favor of the Lord, but you have to walk for the Lord. You have to live for the Lord. You have to crucify the flesh daily. I love you guys. I hope y'all have a blessed day. Be encouraged. Later.